Hi, welcome back to this video series on cryptography. Today I'm going to talk about public key crypto systems and compare, in fact, a couple of cryptographic constructions. The very first public paper that I know of is published by RSA and Hellman back in 1976. This is the journal paper. In this article, the authors introduce new directions in cryptography. They define what is the meaning of a public key, private key, how can two parties communicate without having the shared secret key arranged up front. So they introduced this notion of public key cryptography, basically. Okay, so I'm not going to read all the paragraphs line by line. I'm going to pick a few things that are needed for this particular session. And then I'm going to compare this paper with another paper by Pohlig and Hellman, together with RSA. I'm going to make some comparison among these three papers, okay? The paper introduces the public key crypto system, right? And the public key crypto system requires two types of keys. One is called the encryption key, another is called the decryption key, right? This is what the paper is referring to. And the important thing is that it is computationally infeasible to derive decryption key from encryption key. That's basically the idea. And proposed some initial ideas of how a public key crypto system will work, some algorithms, some initial thoughts. But they also clearly mentioned that the problem is still largely open back then. So how do we develop such a crypto system actually? The paper actually, in fact, solved the key distribution problem. So if you have two parties, Alice and Bob, they want to talk to each other, how can they come up with a common key? That is actually solved in this paper. So there is an algorithm. I also talked about key exchange in my other video series. So that problem is solved. And we also talked about Merkle's puzzle idea. That is another idea Merkle proposed to exchange keys in a public channel, okay? What I'm going to talk about though is that compare this core ideas, the core ideas in this paper with RSA and the other paper by Pohlig and Hellman, as I said earlier. So, okay, very quickly, in the regular symmetric key crypto system, you have some message. Message source wants to send it to the receiver, right? So sender and the receiver, you have sender and the receiver. And what the goal is basically to be able to send a message from one end to another end, of course. So we have a message, say, let's say P, plain text. As you can see here, there's a key source here. The key source to securely transmit the key to the sender as well as to the receiver upfront. That's a separate channel, right? And then the transmitter will be able to take the message P and apply some transformation on the message using some transformation function, right? Which is indexed by the key. So you need a key and the plain text. It will produce hopefully some gibberish. And then the receiver will be able to apply a reverse inverse transformation, right? To be able to recover the plain text from the gibberish. And the receiver, of course, also needs the same key K. So this is sort of well known for many, many years. This is a conventional cryptographic system. But as you can see, sender and receiver must have the same key. But in this paper, authors invented a public key crypto system idea, right? And they formalized what is the meaning of encryption decryption in the context of a public key crypto system. So here is the public key cryptography system. And here, if a source wants to send a message to the receiver, right? All the source does is it uses the receiver's key. And so there must be a receiver's key. This is the key of the receiver, encryption key. And then you just directly send the message to the receiver. The receiver takes another key, matching decryption key, and then decrypt it and then get the plain text back. Okay. So this is the idea of the public key system. Okay. Then RSA came along. RSA basically is actually you may want to call RSA an implementation of Pohlig-Hellman public key crypto system idea, because the Pohlig-Hellman paper said, okay, it's an open problem. We want a crypto system where sender can send a message to the receiver without having to know the key. And also one more thing I didn't talk about is that paper from RSA and Hellman introduced this notion of a digital signature as well, that anybody can sign a message. They have a message and they have the private key, they can sign it. And the receiver will be able to check the authenticity of the message by using the sender's public key. So sender will have a private key and a public key, and the sender will sign it using the private key, and the receiver will be able to verify using the sender's public key. That idea was also articulated in this paper. Okay, so RSA is basically an implementation of that idea. And RSA paper apparently was published in 1977. One thing that I would like to call out now is that another paper from Pohlig and Hellman, right? This paper was published in 1978, actually. It was submitted for publication in 1976, revised and so on. So as far as I can see, it's published only in 1978, as you can see in the copyright, okay, section. So what's happening here is that we have these three papers, okay? And I'm going to show you some interesting hidden relationships that I saw in the references. So if you go back now to the Pohlig-Hellman paper and search for Pohlig, oh, it's not there. Okay, here it is. And it says submitted to publication, right? If you now go back to the PH algorithm that I talked about in the other paper, in other session actually, PH algorithm is like, this paper has two parts, okay? One is a symmetric algorithm, and then talking about another problem called computing discrete logarithm. So the first part of the paper actually creates a crypto system, okay? And then the crypto system is remarkably similar to what RSA has actually. I'm going to show the details in a moment. So in this paper, as you can see, this is the PH paper, right? Pohlig and Hellman's paper. And the encryption algorithm, this is basically symmetric algorithm, okay? So I'll talk about the symmetric key algorithm first. So the idea of this paper, you have encryption and decryption, right? Encryption takes two arguments. The encryption key, in the paper, they use K instead of E, but let me use E for a moment, okay? And then a message M, okay? How is this transformed? This is basically M power E. Let me try this using M power E, okay? It turned out to be horrible, so I will use the regular typewriter. M power E in mod P, okay? So you're talking about Pohlig-Hellman. This is the PH part. Okay, so encryption is made of two things. E, which takes encryption function, we can call it like this way. It's nothing but M power E mod P. P is a prime number, okay? And what about decryption? Decryption is like this. You have the ciphertext, and then you have a decryption key. And you take your ciphertext, you apply decryption on top of it, meaning exponent D. And you get back as M if your E and D satisfies some property, okay? This property is necessary. Not for every E and D this is going to work. So your E and D has to satisfy this property due to Fermat's little theorem, okay? If E and D satisfy this property, your encryption and decryption functions look like this, okay? Very simple structure. However, this is basically for symmetric cryptography, okay? This is symmetric cryptography, which means your keys E and D both are private, okay? So E and D are private. Okay, so this is Pohlig-Hellman, right? Okay, RSA paper is very similar to this construction, okay? The paper that I have shown you here is over here, a method for obtaining digital signature and public key crypto system. It actually has exactly the same structure. At a very, very high level, it's exactly the same, okay? So let me go back to the notes and write the RSA structure, and we can compare. Okay, so RSA structure, okay? RSA is a public key crypto system, right? And here, the encryption is exactly like this. However, there's one difference, okay? Instead of P, we need a N. N is a composite number, okay? Composite number means it's a product of two different primes, P and Q. N is P times Q, that's all. And the decryption is similar, right? You have your decryption key and you apply mod N, okay? So what is public here? Public key is your E and N, right? And your private key is D, okay? This is remarkable, right? It's so similar. One is invented for symmetric cryptography, another is for public key cryptography. The only difference is instead of prime here, on the left hand side in the PH, RSA as a composite. Okay, well, you know why? Because if you make your E and D's, E is public and D is private, if you still have this one, it's bad, because all you have to do is multiply. You apply Euclidean algorithm to find D once you know E and P minus 1, right? P is anyway on the left hand side, P is public, on the right hand side not, just to be clear. So what they did actually essentially is just replace this. It is like this: E times D is 1 mod P minus 1, is congruent. Actually my equal to is congruent. Then you have this system where anyone can encrypt message M using the encryption key E, and then the other side will just have the decryption key D to decrypt it and get the M. Okay, in practice you have to apply padding, but I'm not going to talk about padding, but I'm just talking about the core RSA algorithm. Okay, so what you are seeing is remarkable similarity in the structure, and I'm actually really surprised, because the original paper from Pohlig-Hellman actually refers the PH paper as submit for publication, contain or didn't propose something like RSA, where you have digital signature together with public key encryption. Okay, the PH algorithm actually can be turned into public immediately, right? You can see here, if I go back to the left hand side, make my E as public and P as public, then of course you can't use P, you have to use composite, but there's so much similarity, you know. And also in the original paper from Pohlig-Hellman, they talked about digital signature, and you can get digital signature easily, right? Because what you're doing here is in RSA, how you do digital signature is like this: you have a message that you would like to sign, so you do something called decrypt. Okay, you decrypt your message using your private key D. Okay, that's so you basically send M power D to the receiver in all in mod N composite, and the receiver can easily verify. All he does is he applies encryption function on your ciphertext, right? And he uses your public key as a sender's public key. So because of this, what should happen now? You should get back M. So if you send the M and the digital signature, the receiver can actually verify that, okay, it is actually signed by you. So this part is already taken care in RSA. But if you look at the left hand side, you can also achieve the same, because you can call the decryption function first, okay, and you will be getting a signature here if you apply Pohlig-Hellman idea, and then the receiver can use the encryption function to check whether the message is actually signed by the sender. Okay, so I feel like that RSA has so much similarity to Pohlig-Hellman's algorithm from a structural point of view, although the RSA paper actually doesn't really talk so much about Pohlig-Hellman algorithm. They do refer it as saying it's submitted for publication. I feel that there is so much overlap between these two papers, and many books talk about RSA in detail, but they hardly make a connection to the PH paper, which I think is an important a concept from a structural similarity perspective, at least. Okay, so what I have tried to convince you today, hopefully, is that many of the ideas in RSA is actually coming from the structural constructions that PH paper has actually. That's basically what I feel from a personal point of view. There is some interesting connection among RSA paper, the Pohlig-Hellman paper, and the original DH paper. It is somehow missed in the original DH paper, this kind of a construction that you see on the right hand side of RSA. Okay, although they had the original PH paper talking about a very similar construction. The only difference is instead of a prime, RSA uses composite. Okay, that's the only difference. Other than that, you have everything in PH. Okay, as well. Okay, so that's all. Thank you very much.